So I'm back again for a vlog, a vlog. Yo, so today I want to talk about something, that it just sort of like boggles my brain. I mean, everybody goes through it, I guess. Even I had to go through it. And sometimes, when I was younger, you grow up and you have these stereotypes even about your own people, right? Whether it be more so about African Americans, but all people in general, right? So today I want to talk about something really quickly, or maybe it'll be long, who really knows. But today we're talking about why it's stupid when people say that you don't act black or you don't look black. Okay, so let's go through the first one. People don't act black. The thing that kills me about it is that for the same people that most of the people that say these kind of things don't have a high understanding of our culture as from a worldly view, and our culture as black culture around the world and our history. Most of them are just saying like, oh man, you don't act black because you don't do this or you don't do that, and oh, you don't listen to this music so you don't act black. Well, that's debatable, but you might not listen to music. First of all, majority of the music, 99% of the music in America was created by African Americans. So when somebody says, oh man, you listen to rock and roll. Now granted, yeah, it's probably going to be rock and roll. We live in America, so it's probably going to be a rock and roll band of somebody of European descent, right? But it doesn't mean that there's not black rock and roll bands. It doesn't mean that there's not Afro punk bands. It doesn't mean that we didn't create this music. Same with trance in Detroit and all kind of other music that we created, whether it be jazz, R&B, hip hop, blues. What else is it? All kind of music. I mean, I could go down the list forever and ever and ever. Soul, funk, just whatever it is, whatever kind of music, rock. So when you tell people that they don't sound black because they're talking intelligently, or maybe they know a lot or they're educated, and that's not, I guess, the cool thing to be black or whatever, because I'm educated and I still can talk slang and I can still do everything I can. Not that I've ever gotten hit with this stereotype, but I've been around people that other people hit them with this stereotype like, oh, you don't act black, everything you do is not black. But everything that they're doing, you don't have the knowledge of it and you think it's not black because now you see other races doing it, and we don't do it that much anymore, more so rock and roll. But you think that it's not black, but it is black. It's the most blackest thing you can do. Actually, most things you're doing that you think is black is not black, and the things that you think that you are, and the things that you think that aren't black are actually black. And that's the funny thing about it, right? And I'm using black as a loose term, you know what I'm saying? Meaning like, in America and or depending on what subject I'm talking about throughout the whole video, the whole world of people of African descent, right? So it just kills me sometimes when people will be like, oh, well, that girl's not black because she does this or she talks that way. Look, everybody doesn't grow up in a poverty neighborhood. I mean, I would like to think that probably a bigger majority of people of African descent in America or around the world probably grow up in poverty. Not that I want that by any means. Not that that makes you cool. Not that that, gives you any more credit than somebody else. It's just the predicament that you were in. And it doesn't mean that you're better than somebody from the suburbs. Now, yeah, you might possibly be a little bit more hip, maybe, but there's people in poor neighborhoods that are into different stuff that you would consider white, but you just think because they act a certain way that they don't come from where you live at. But there's all kind of people in the poverty neighborhoods. It's just not all gangsters running around poverty neighborhoods. There's normal people. A majority of people are normal people in poverty neighborhoods, and they're just trying to cope with life and live their day to day. And just like you have dreams of being in a better predicament than what they're in, but obviously, unfortunately, most will never get out of that predicament. It's just the way it is. Also, the way capitalism works is the backbone of, the capitalist society is the poor people, So, I wanted to address this today because I just get sick of people saying like, oh, well, you're not black. Not me. I'm saying I've never gotten this. I'm talking to other people that I've heard that have wrote to me, that have complained about, them getting bullied or picked on because they're not black. But let me tell you something about the people that say you're not black. Majority of them don't even know history or significance of black events or culture or history. They're trendy. They're what's in now, oh, well, it's hip hop and R&B. That's what it is right now. I mean, even though I don't consider what's out on the radio right now, That's not hip hop. That's rap. To me, they're two different things. I mean, rap sprang from hip hop, but rap is an action that isn't hip hop. But to me, they're two different things. Hip hop encompasses 4 elements of hip hop. You know, breakdancing, graffiti, DJ, whatever, spitting, and rap is just whatever it is. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm sick of people saying that, you know, somebody is not black. Black is not one thing. Black is just not poverty and ghetto. That's not black. Actually, that was never black if you look back thousands of years ago, that was never black. Black was not being extra poor and, you know, you get props because you're from a poor neighborhood or whatever. Granted, being from a place where there's not a lot of opportunity, it makes people, I think, hungry. Not that it doesn't make people hungry in places that are better opportunity places, but you know, that's arguable, you know. But just because somebody is not into something that the majority of a culture is into does not make them white. Now, what does make them white or Asian or Indian or whatever it is that you think they're copying but living in America, so most of the people is going to say is white, what does make them that is when they're taking on European culture, which at the end of the day, yo, we all do. I mean, it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's the history. That was the card that we were dealt in the last, you know, 500 to 1,000 years, and that's just the card that we were dealt. So we're all being white. I don't understand this thing like, oh, you're not being black, you're being white. Yo, you speak English? You being white. I'm speaking English right now. I'm being white. You don't understand that. That's stupid ideology. Get rid of it. It's dumb. That's ignorant ideology. Because somebody's intelligent, or maybe they talk differently from you, they grew up in a different neighborhood, doesn't mean that they're white. We all do white things. We all wearing Western clothes. We're all talking English. I mean, if you live in America or wherever you live at, hopefully, you know, the English is the language of business now, unfortunately, because that's just due to colonization and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, we all are doing things white. We all talk white. We talking English. Yo, you talking African language? No, you talking English. You white. You acting white. So stop telling people that they're acting white when they're doing things that you have no knowledge about, that are actually black, but you think they're white because you see majority white people in this country or wherever you're at, Asian, Arab, whatever it might be, doing it. If it is a black thing, right? So stop, people. Stop saying people are acting white if they don't act the same way as what the majority of the culture is, because that's not true. That's not true. Everybody that's speaking English or doing something of European descent is acting white. If that even makes any difference, depending on how far your knowledge goes back, how far in history you go, because even then Europeans were going around the world and taking knowledge from everyone else. So even, who knows, even speaking English might not be a white thing. Who really knows? But you know, down thousands of years ago. But what I'm trying to get at is that you shouldn't call people or tell people that they're white or they're Asian because they're doing certain things. I like anime. I like animation. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about that. I love anime. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care. Until I'm an old man, I'll still be watching anime. I don't really care what anybody thinks about that. And you know, I probably don't get slack from it because it's like that people look at me like, oh, it's creative, it's an art form, blah blah, this and that, you like this, blah blah. And probably some people do give me slack, but not that many. But if you meet that person that loves anime and loves Asian culture, that acts Asian, you know, you're saying that they act Asian, when in all reality, some of them might just love anime. Some of them might just love anime. Now, granted, I'm not one of those people that I love anime. You know, I know about Asian culture, not all of it, but I'm around Asian culture. I'm in the cars, and I know about a lot of Asian culture. Now, you know, it's a cultural thing. You know, some black people will be like, oh, well, you know, not to me, but other people like, oh, man, you're trying to act Asian. Well, if somebody likes anime, that doesn't mean you're trying to act Asian. You just like the animation that they have. That's as simple as that. Now, I understand some people saying if you were like, well, you know, you're running around dressing like Asian people, you're trying to look Asian, you know, which we don't even have to try to look Asian, if that makes any sense, depending on what your knowledge is of Africa, because every look is there. I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that even though I know Asian culture, you know, I'm not, like, for instance, like Korea, as far as I know, anybody, Asian viewers, if they're on here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, what is it, K-pop? I think it is K-pop. The Asian culture, you know, in Korea is like, I guess, dominates, you know, the whole like Asian world as far as like music. I think it's either music and like actors, right? So, you know, even though I know that they're doing their thing in Asia or whatever, and I like anime, it doesn't mean that I'm going to like start dressing like K-pop stars or, you know, like trying to be acting like, you know, or try to act like them. You know, I'm of African descent. There's plenty of of obviously of black comedians and actors running around that if I was to imitate anybody or learn from, those would be the first ones I would be learning from. But just because you grab something from one culture doesn't mean that you're turning into that culture. Now, when you try to turn that culture and you diss your own culture or your own race, and you think that another race is better than your own race, then you could say that this person's acting Asian, Arab, white, whatever it is, and obviously to each his own. Some people just go and do it. I mean, I would never. I love my people and my culture around the whole world and America. But some people will just do that, and that's what they want to do. So that was the first thing I want to talk about, is that when you have people that say you're white, are they really saying you're white? Are they really saying you're Arab? Are they really saying you're Asian? If you're really not being that, you're just doing something that another race actually is predominantly doing now, if that makes any sense. So for instance, like I said, like rock and roll, that's a lot of people would consider that like European descent American thing, but it's not at all. It's our stuff. But if I was a black person that listened to rock and roll, I mean, I do. I listen to a couple of different bands, but and actually I listen to Japanese rock and roll. To be honest with you, I love Japanese rock and roll, and I love Japanese jazz. It's not that I put it over the original, African American rock and roll and jazz, but I love it because in Japan they keep it so much in the golden ages, and they go to the subject or whatever they're trying to do, and they keep it at the rawest form, and they develop it from there, and I really appreciate that. So you can't call people Arab, white, Indian, whatever without really understanding the knowledge of what you're saying. Most people are just saying, oh, you acting white, oh, you act like this, blah blah, but you don't even have the knowledge of any of this stuff you're talking about, which most of the stuff is actually black. So you could say she's acting black. When you're saying she's acting white, you're really acting probably more white than she is, or he is, and you might not be. You might be equal, but at the end of the day, you are calling somebody that. So we need to stop calling that, because we're not one-sided. Black is not one thing. It's not one look, and that's the next thing that's going to go into. Lost my thought for a second, but that's the next thing. Actually, I was going to say that is the next thing that I'm going to start talking about, is the look. We don't look like one thing. Stop thinking that. Why can every other race look like 1,000 billion different things? Not really 1,000 billion different things, but maybe 3 or 4 different phenotypes or whatever, one phenotype, 2 phenotypes, whatever it is. I'm just going off the top of my head, but whatever it is, different looks. But you look at black people more so, people of ignorance that are African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Brazil, Honduras, Panama, mostly more so in the Western Hemisphere. And I'm not saying all of us, but I'm saying a lot of us, you think that we have one look. We don't have one look. We the oldest people in the world. We have every look. There's people in Africa that look Indian. There's people in Africa that look Asian. There's people in Africa that look Arab, if you want to say, or you have European features if you think that, but really it's our features come first. It's not white people's features. It's not Arab features, Indian people. Our features come first. So we gave the whole world these features. So the other thing is like, oh, well, oh, she doesn't look black, or they don't look black. They must do this. They must have this in them. They must, but you don't have intelligence in that, field, in that area, because if black people are not the only race in the world, you try to make it seem like black people are the only race in the world that have to look one way. If you're not dark skinned, if you don't have a wide nose, if you don't have big, that's only one type of black people in this world. That's only one type and group of black people in this world. And it doesn't mean that there's not black people. There's black people in the world with straight hair. There's black people in the world with natural blonde hair. There's black people in the world with natural green eyes, blue eyes. These are things that just kill me. People are like, oh, well, you're not black. Not to me, once again, to people I've heard, you're not black. These people will be 100% black. I mean, literally coming from people that have never left the continent, and they've been there forever and ever and ever, and their family has always been, and they've never, never left, and never been conquered or never been colonized. So, we have to understand that there's not just one look with black people. There's so many various amounts of look with black people, and that's why sometimes I think that some people get unattracted to. I don't think that in this regards, I don't think that black people, men of African descent, I don't think we have it as bad as women of African descent, because women of African descent are, I think, balled in like one category, as almost as if they can all look this way, as if they all have to be ghetto, as if they all have to do this, and that's not the case by any means. Now, as an African descent man and African descent man, I think that we're lusted over and we're just put on a higher pedestal than a black woman when it comes to who wants us. Not that I'm taking away from the black woman, because I love the black woman, but I'm just saying that that's what I feel like in the world. The black woman is like demoralized, and they try to take her and just make her weak and make her look like she's nothing, and she would, you know, give up her body and her goods and her spirit and her soul for nothing. Not saying there's not bad people like that out there, but I'm saying that they try to make the whole race of women seem like that, like they're diseased and they're prostitutes and they don't have no morals and they're loud and they're fighting. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Some people have the warrior spirit. They just do. When I talk, I'm a little loud. I'm not aggressive, but I'm a little loud. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like talking low. I mean, I'll talk low, but I don't like talking low. Granted, I don't yell like some people do, but if you understand the whole mind process of colonization and slavery in the mind, then you should understand why people act the way that they act. People. We have to understand this has been passed down from generation to generation. This stuff doesn't change unless you change it, or even you wake up to understand how to change it. But if you don't never understand how to change it, and then you got to throw in all the factors of, you know, single parent family, you know, since slavery, broken up families, you know, economics of a whole race in one country is like 400 or 500 years behind. There's more to it than just that. So, you know, I think that we have it better as black men around the world because we're put up on this pedestal, even though we're still looked at as, a lot of us, that, oh, we can't be married. I don't want to marry them because of this and that. Some people don't want to marry because of cultural reasons. I understand that. But a lot of people don't want to marry because they feel like a black man, oh, they're going to cheat on you. They're players, blah, blah. Every man's like that. Every man's like that. And I'm not saying every man is a bad player, cheater, but I'm saying every man in the world, every race, there's always men that are like that. There's always men that are not. There's always good men. There's always bad men. There's always men that believe in polygamy. There's men that don't. There's men that, you know, want a certain type of woman. There's men that don't. It's in everybody. It's not just us. Stop making it seem like it's just us, and don't think that it's just us. So I think the black woman has it worse because she's looked at as those things, but all black women and men do not look the same. We don't all look the same. From East to West Africa to North Africa to South Africa, we don't look the same. From the Western Hemisphere, we don't look the same. We have different looks. All the looks in the world we have. We can look like anything. We can look Asian. We can look Indian. And the reason I say that is because Asians, Indians, Arabs, whatever, they look like us because we were first. But I'm just saying that we can have all these looks of what people would say, like, oh, they look a little Indian. You sure they ain't got nothing in them? No, they're not. They don't have anything in them. I mean, you know, as far as, yes, you can talk about a little bit of the world mixing, and everybody's mixing now, blah, blah, whatever. But I'm talking about just ancient people that have always been here, regardless of the fact we have strong genes as people of African descent. So any of the features are not due to mixing. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's not due to mixing. I believe that this is, I know there's old people that still exist that look like this, and they're still in a certain part of the world, which I call the motherland. So if they're there and they've never been mixed, then that must mean that you get all your looks from us, not the opposite way around. So to all my black people out here, we have to stop. For the people that says, oh, and it's more so, I think the last generation, not the last generation from different countries, but a lot of, I can speak on African American, last generation people that obviously didn't go outside of America a lot, and they weren't really, they didn't encounter other people of African descent from outside of America. So it's not necessarily even their fault, but you know, it is what it is. But mostly from the older people and the younger people that don't have knowledge on this, they say things like, oh, well, that person looks mixed. You sure they black? You sure that black is not one thing? That's why I even hate saying black. That's why, I mean, I say black because I know in the community it's so embedded in my head, and we just say it to each other. But when I talk to people, I say I'm African American, because African American is not stating one color. When you say black, you're saying that black people are just black, one color, and that's not true. There's light skinned people of African descent, there's brown skinned people of African descent, there's dark people from African descent, and there's even darker people of African descent after that. So they all have different phenotypes. A lot of them have, you know, wider noses, some have smaller noses, some have bigger eyes, some have smaller eyes, some have bigger foreheads, some have smaller foreheads. It doesn't matter. Some have gaps in between their teeth, which is a thing that I love. But it doesn't matter. We are just like everybody else. I mean, more ancient, but I'm saying that we have different looks. There's different people. Don't consider somebody not black because they don't look like you, or they're not from the same ethnic group that you're from, as far as like being of an African ethnic group, meaning African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Somali, whatever the 80 different ethnic groups there are in Ethiopia, Afar, Oromo, it's 500 in Nigeria, like, the Mindi people, or the Yoruba people, or the Fulani, or whatever it is, whatever ethnic group is. we come from a continent, a whole continent that has different regions, has different landmass, has different climates, has snow, has deserts, has forest, has plains, has savannas, has what else am I missing? Has mountains, has hills. I mean, come on, people. We have to understand we don't look the same. So at the end of this vlog, it's actually a lot longer than what I thought it was, but I just speak my mind sometimes and it just starts to fly out. But first thing we talked about, just because a black person is not doing something that supposedly is popular in the culture at the moment does not mean that they are not acting of African descent, wherever that be in the world. And the second thing, just because somebody looks like and you never registered a person of African descent that looks like this, doesn't mean that they're not the same person as you, have the same DNA and of African descent. That's all I'm gonna say about that subject. That's another vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yo, as always, I'm out.
What's up, what's up?
Hey!
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.
African!